Accessing Quantum Consciousness with Dr. Theresa Bullard. She is a Ph.D. physicist, the host of Mystery Teachings on Gaia TV, and an international spiritual teacher with the Modern Mystery School. She bridges science, ancient wisdom, and powerful time-tested techniques for harnessing consciousness. She expertly weaves together these diverse fields to bring us a real-world ways in which we can achieve our limitless potential. Welcome, Theresa.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
I am so excited to talk with you today. I've been watching your Gaia, and I saw you at the Los Angeles Conscious Life Expo, and you just the way that you present things, I think is so just beautiful and digestible, and it's going to be such a great experience. So, my first question for you today is, what is your definition of a miracle?
So I would say miracles are things that seem to defy your normal common sense, linear, logical way of being able to explain how did that just happen. And as I was thinking about this topic after you sent me your little questionnaire, I was thinking, wow, okay, miracles. They're sometimes I have for example, I talk about magic, and a lot of people don't like this word magic, but because it's gotten a bad reputation from history in the past and so forth. But what I have a very specific, in the mystery school, we have a very specific definition for it. It's to change nothing into something or something into something else. So that's basically creation and transformation. And magic is in what we at one point in time would have called magic. Today we call it science. And what we might call today miracles or, unexplainable phenomenon or magic, tomorrow will be science. It's just, we may not have the understanding yet to be able to explain how it happens, but I feel there's always a reason, there's always a alignment with the laws of nature and the universe and that flow. But miracles are based more on some level of inner consciousness, or maybe some faith, or just that sheer will. I've created a lot of miracles in my life, or what I would consider to be miracles, but I created them. It was by will alone that I made them happen. And yet I had to move mountains to make them happen. And yet then there are also sometimes those miracles that are unexpected. And yet I feel as we tap into higher levels of consciousness, as we awaken more to our full potential, that life becomes, a walking miracle. Life becomes magical, and we can experience these things every day.
Oh, I love that. And I love that you bring in the idea that, I when I'd say magic and miracles, I think that there is a very synonymous and, experience around the two, and what that brings to the world, and how now science is proving these things, right? Like it's all of these things coming together in the midst of this conscious revolution that we're a part of right now. And I love that you said creating something or something from nothing, right? Alchemy. And so the Intuitive Intelligence Academy, we talk about spiritual alchemy, and that idea of, again, taking something and nothing and turning it into something, or something into something different. I said creating gold out of the crap in our lives, is one of those experiences. I would love for you to share a little bit about what your mission, your purpose in this world is, and how you came to do what you're doing now.
Yeah, so my mission is to bridge the science and the spirituality, especially with ancient wisdom teachings, because I found that the ancient lineage wisdom teachings they have deep knowledge and deep understanding of how the universe works. They maybe came up with metaphorical languages or ways of describing that. But when, as I was in my physics studies and started to have more of my spiritual awakening, I went from, this experience of, okay, everything is explained through physics and first principles, and we understand, Big Bang cosmology, for example, and we can trace it all the way back to picoseconds after the Big Bang, and, how did the universe come to be? But we can't quite get to zero. We don't know what happened at zero, or what happened to start that or before that. And meanwhile, I was exploring into some universal Kabbalah and alchemy and metaphysics and ancient spiritual teachings. And they had their own creation stories. And as I was comparing what I was learning in modern astrophysics and quantum physics and so forth, and then what I was learning in these metaphysical teachings, it was like they were saying the same thing. And I thought, oh my gosh, there's connection here. They're just using slightly different ways of describing it, and one's more mathematical and one's more metaphorical, but it's the same concepts. And I thought, if these metaphysicians have known this for thousands of years and science is just now starting to come around to it, what else could we potentially learn or gain from studying these ancient wisdom teachings and combining that with modern science, so that the two can complement each other and inform each other rather than being opposed to each other? And as I walked my own path of going from this very linear, logical, scientific way of thinking about things, and you know, you're taught to be fairly skeptical and to doubt claims until, you know, there's proof behind it and it's got to be tangible evidence and so forth. And then as I started to explore more spiritually, because at a personal level, I needed the balance and the deeper sense of purpose and meaning behind why I was doing what I was doing. Because just pursuing the knowledge and the education and the technology, or, you know, the ways to contribute in that field, it wasn't satisfying me at a deeper level. And as I went into exploring spirituality, it started to really reawaken why I was really doing all of what I was doing. And I realized, as I had these two deep interests, both of them converged in just a general desire to understand the universe and how it works, both physically and spiritually. And as I walked both paths myself, within one foot in science, one foot in spirituality, I started to realize that they complemented each other more than not. And that I felt like science left by itself, without any spiritual guidance, without any sort of that deeper wisdom to guide the way in which we're applying our scientific knowledge, was starting to go on a negative track, like, you know, getting into biological genetic engineering and manipulation and AI, you know, just there was so much, like, yeah, we can do it technologically, but is it what we should be doing? Just because we have the knowledge and the capability doesn't mean that that's what we should be doing. And I felt that spirituality really needed to come in to help steer us towards deeper purpose and towards how does this benefit the whole? How is this really in service to a bigger mission versus just because we can? And at the same time, as I explored into a lot of spiritual stuff, you know, in the New Age in particular, I have tended to find it can get really ungrounded, and, you know, a lot of claims without much substantiation to it. And so bringing the science in to help ground the spiritual, and then the spiritual into the science to help lift it up into, you know, the higher purpose. And the two really, really need to come together for us to have that wholeness and that balance with how we're moving forward in our world. As well as understanding our place and the role and the responsibilities that we have for how we're going to apply our power and our science and our technology and all of that. So, and the other piece that I really felt for me personally is that as I got more and more into the spiritual path and you know, allowing magic to be real again, what I found was that it brought back that sense of awe and mystery and inspiration and creativity and just that deeper sense of meaning and fulfillment that came from that. Whereas science just it was kind of stomping a lot of that out for me, because everything was just becoming linear, logical, and explainable. And spirituality brought the mystery back in, and that really opened up a lot of awe and inspiration and, you know, more soulful feelings. So I love having room for magic in life, and yet also being able to bring the science to it.
I think it sounds like it's such a good system. Like everything has its feminine and its masculine, right? Like these two sides, and for so many years we switched so far into the masculine, that patriarchy and that masculine, which I really felt like is like the science. And then you have the consciousness and the spirituality over here and the feminine, and we're somehow coming back and bringing that beautiful balance back together so that we can see the value of both of them, and how without one or the other you're missing something, you're losing something, right? Like that to me is when you speak of it in this way, and it's the first time I've ever thought of it like that, but when you speak of it in that way, that's what it makes me feel like, oh, we're uniting these two sides that are feminine, masculine, into something that we can now take to the world and that they can digest.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, you can definitely see that. Like it's the science and the art, or it's the logical and the intuitive. It's the masculine and feminine, and we have to bring the two together and find ways that they can harmonize and co-create and bring the synergy that is there when you bring these two different approaches together. And that's really the core of alchemy. Alchemy is about bringing, the feminine, the masculine, or the active and the, intuitive, conscious, subconscious, and bringing them together, finding ways to harmonize them and allowing them to inform each other and co-create in a way that brings something even greater than either one of them alone could make happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So that I would love to know a little bit about how you came about to do your mystery, the modern mystery school. It was like a little bit of an unexpected miracle that happened in your life, and there's something that I would love for you to share with us about that.
Yeah. So when I was in graduate school, I was probably a year or two in. I was 2 years into graduate school, and I was immersed in 80 hours of physics a week. And so I had been prior to that, I had a lot of diversity. I'd had sports, and I was at a liberal arts college, and I was able to, just explore a lot and so forth. And then when I went into graduate school, it was just 80 hours a week of physics. There was really no time for anything else. And so that threw me out of balance. And after about a year of that, I thought, wow, this is not good. Something's got to give here. And I need to find some sense of well-being and balance and purpose and meaning behind why am I even doing all of this? And then about a year, that then ended up setting me on my search for my personal well-being. What was the keys to that? And I brought in all those aspects of life back in. And then in the end, spirituality ended up being a huge key that was at the core of that sense of purpose and meaning for me. And so I started really diving into all the science and consciousness, science and spirituality, intersections of like quantum physics and Eastern philosophy and all that stuff that was available at the time. And I got really excited, and I started to remember why I went into physics in the first place. I also started to crave community. Like I really wanted to talk to and connect with other people about it, and be able to go into that depth of the deeper philosophy and why and what does this mean and all of that. And so I started really searching for community, and I was going to conferences and expos and, like a Center for Spiritual Living and all of that kind of stuff. And it was good. It was a lot of exploration and exposure, but I wasn't really finding my tribe or my spiritual family, so to speak, like the level of depth that I was looking for. And there was a point where I was so frustrated, and I was on the phone with my mom. I was up in Seattle at the time, and she was down in California. And I was on the phone with my mom, and I was talking with her, and I was just venting, I was kind of expressing this frustration. And she said, Theresa, why don't you just put it out there to the universe that you want to find your spiritual family, your path, your tribe. Let it go. And then focus on your qualifying exams and, what you have to do with your Ph.D. work. And just, let the universe take care of it. And so I thought, okay, yeah, I can do that. So I did that. I made a very clear request to the universe: help me find my spiritual family or tribe, the people that I'm going to connect with and really resonate with. And I put it out there, and within 2 weeks of that, synchronicities just started to happen that brought me to finding somebody who was connected with the Modern Mystery School. And it was, the way it happened was, I think, the miracle, because it was just this series of little synchronistic kind of connections that needed to happen that were really outside of our hands. And then the fact that it really was it, it wasn't just the next step to get into it. It was like, oh, this is the door right here. And she, this woman who was connected with the mystery school that lived in Seattle, had her webmaster send an email to a woman in California who did DNA music. And that woman ended up getting my mom and sending, because my mom had a website called dnamusic.com at the time. And she said, would you like to cross-link websites? And my mom goes in and checks out her website and is like seeing all this stuff about awakening DNA and activations and mystery school and all this. And she's like, wow, where is this woman? And my mom keeps digging deeper and deeper into this website and finds out that she's in Seattle. And just 2 weeks prior, I had been saying, I want to find, other people in my area. And she goes, oh, there's no coincidences. So let's just send this off to Theresa and suggest that she check it out. And so this is how I then, I decided to get a life activation session with this woman. Her name was Verla Wade. And at the session, I was, I could feel the energy. I'd had lots of energy modalities done on me by then, and it didn't really like blow me away in the moment, but the information was really clear. But during the session, at the end of it, she's like, now, who is your mother again? I was like, oh, you wanted to cross-link websites, and, you sent us a message and this and that. And she's like, who is she again? And I said her name, my mom's name, and she's Barbara Bullard. And she's like, it just doesn't ring a bell. I don't recognize that name. And she's like, oh, I think my webmaster must have gotten in touch with the wrong person. And so it just happened to be the cosmic mistake that led to the opening up. and then from there, it was that one little session. Even though I wasn't really 100% sure about it in the moment, it started this sequence of events in my life that led to quite a lot of change. And then from there, I just really kept feeling very intuitively called to take the next step. And it was about 4 months later that I finally went and took that next step. And that was when I then met the people at the Modern Mystery School. And I realized when I was there, like, oh, wow, these people I really connect with, and they feel like family. They feel like this feels right. Even though I don't really know anyone here, it just feels right. And I knew by the time that weekend was done, I knew, oh, this was the universe's answer to my request that I had made 4 months prior to that. And then the fact that it was a real authentic mystery school, it wasn't just calling itself a mystery school, like it had real power. And I thought it was a miracle that something like that was even around today, and that was available and open to even find my way into it in the right timing. Because there's real lineage, real power, real deep knowledge there within the Modern Mystery School. So that became a miracle in my life because it completely transformed my life.
Beautiful. I love that. I'm going to have to check out more about the Modern Mystery School and see what's up with that. That sounds incredible.
Yeah.
So we are in the midst of this conscious revolution, and right now it is showing up in a very curious and interesting way in our world, as we are all stuck in our homes, right? Quarantine, COVID-19. I believe that there's a deep conversation to be had around healing and the quantum and what's going on with this. What is your take on, what's happening in the world, and how can we start to move through some of the things the fear and the things that are going on around us?
Yeah, I've actually been doing a video blog series exactly addressing this topic, because it is such a pivotal moment in our conscious evolution and revolution and awakening. It's obviously a wake-up call to a lot of us in terms of how we've been living our life. And, we've been in such a high activity mode in the world that, it's gotten almost impossible to keep up with it. Things were moving so fast. And then all of a sudden you have this, okay, everybody stay at home, and life as you know it just stops. And the pendulum has swung so far the other direction to this state of inactivity. And that had to happen. It's actually there's what we call in Hermetic teachings, the principle of rhythm, and that you have that pendulum swing always going on. And at some point it's got to course correct. And so I feel like we're in that course correction right now. And when I've been looking at the sort of the conscious evolution that's been happening, the awakening that's been happening, especially since the new millennium. And we have been in this alchemical process, and it has been moving forward in interesting ways. And when you have alchemy, it's like there's a couple key things that are happening with that. One is we have to purify away the impurities, right? So any imbalances, impurities, things that really are not working or that are holding us back from that highest potential, those things need to be purified away. And there's several stages and processes that we have to go through to get through that purification process. The other big thing with alchemy is raising vibration. So we're purifying and trying to harmonize these different essential ingredients. Okay, there's certain things that are essential and we need to keep them. Like, the power of humanity, and what is that power within us? What is and isn't working within our society, these types of things. There are certain essentials, and we need to distill out what are those essentials, purify away what's getting in the way or what's not working, what's corrupting the system, and then bring the essentials into harmony and back together again. And then we got to raise the vibration and perfect that and mature that and continue to implement and evolve that in our physical world so that it really solidifies and crystallizes into this new way of being. So I feel like right now there's 7 stages in this alchemical process, and I feel like we're in the 5th of the 7 stages. We're at this point where in alchemy we call it fermentation, where it's like there's this death of the old, this final like letting go, and it's kind of being stripped away from you, and it's a struggle because the ego has its attachments, and we want life to just be what it was. We want it to be comfortable and familiar and so forth, but that doesn't actually support our growth. Right. And so in a way it's like it has to kind of get stripped away, and we have to allow it to die. And in that fermentation stage, it really is, it's a vision quest process. It's a go into your cave, or go out into isolation out in the desert, or go into this inner place where you are letting go of the outer world and really connecting into the core eternal essence within. And only when we let go of all the ego personality stuff and let it die and shed it away, can we then emerge from this dark stage into the refinement stages that are awaiting us on the other side of all of this. So I feel like we're in a reset time right now, and people are being asked to come to this 0 point of that reset. And from a quantum physics perspective, it's like before we can really shift into the quantum mindset or a quantum conscious state, we have to go through the 0 point, because the 0 point is like the gateway between what we know in our sort of observation, physical reality base of operating, and then going through this gateway that gets us into the quantum realm where everything is possible. And that 0 point is what we need to do to get to that quantum state. So I feel like we're in the reset.
Yeah, I love that we're in the 0 point. We're in the middle, like that, the space in between. You're not here and you're not there yet. And you said so that we could go into the quantum, right into the quantum consciousness. What is quantum consciousness?
So quantum consciousness is a very different way of perceiving. It's a very different way of observing yourself and the world around you. And so in our normal way of operating, we're very much objective kind of reality, right? We're focused on the tangible. It's either this or it's that. We kind of try to create this black and white type of scenario in our physical world, and we're focused on object-oriented ways of viewing things. And in a quantum realm, though, it's like in quantum physics, everything is possible. All states of being exist simultaneously, and it's not this or that. It's not black or white. It's all of it. It's And we can allow for paradox. We can allow for multiple truths to exist at once, even if they seem to conflict with each other. Whereas in our normal way of, thinking of things, we judge, well, if this is true, then that is not. And, we create this separation. Whereas in a quantum paradigm, there's connection, there's multiple possibilities, there's contextuality, that things can be true within a certain context, but maybe not in another context. And there's complementarity, where you have these, you might be able to know a lot about one thing, but then there's going to be a lot of uncertainty around another thing. So it means you can't necessarily control all the variables, whereas in our old way of doing things, we want to control everything. So a quantum mindset opens up and allows for a lot more possibility. And I look at our previous mindset was based on Newtonian physics, and it was deterministic, it was realistic, meaning tangible physical material.
Or if I have to be able to feel it, I got to see it. Like if it doesn't exist in that realm, then it doesn't exist.
Right. It was based on the idea of separation, that we can break a whole down to its parts and just know how it operates based on the parts. And it was, everything had to be just realistic, right? So there's these four principles of Newtonian physics that inform so much of our society, and that's been in effect for the last 300 years or so, maybe 400. And it is quantum physics has been here for the last 100 years, but our mindset has lagged behind. Like, we haven't embraced these principles of quantum physics as a mindset in terms of what is true in our deeper reality. But as we're starting to now, we're starting to make that shift and realize we're connected. We're starting to realize everything isn't so black and white. There is more uncertainty, but we can thrive even amidst that uncertainty. That we are conscious, that our consciousness is a part of this process. The observer effect. It's like what I expect and then how I choose to observe things, or the assumptions that I make, that kind of determines what I get out of the quantum field. There's all possibilities there, but what I observe is what I get. And that observer effect is based on assumptions. So it's learning to let go of assumptions, let go of judgments and preconceived notions, and just really open up to infinite possibility.
Beautiful. Yeah. And by we are opening up to, infinite possibility that allows us to accomplish goals and manifest and do these things. So how does accessing this quantum conscious state help us with manifestation and accomplishing goals in our lives?
Yeah, so when I actually have a program online called the Quantum Transformation Formula. It's an online course, and it takes people through that formula of how do we accomplish our goals. But most people tend to be trying to set goals and accomplish those goals from a personality based level. We're looking at, okay, this is how things work in the physical world. This is what I know. Here are the steps that I have to go through: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And they're, it's a very linear, logical kind of approach to things. And most people tend to just be getting an idea from somebody else, repackaging it and presenting it as their own. There's not a whole lot of real innovation happening. And so, they say there's this sort of comment that there's nothing new under the sun, because people are just sort of shuffling around ideas that have been there for ages and then just kind of presenting it in new ways. But in a quantum way of creating, you're shifting, you're raising your consciousness from that personality level of things, from that, egoic sort of tangible, physical world oriented way of things. And you're shifting up into a higher state of consciousness where you really connect into this universal field of mind and infinite intelligence. And you just become one with that. It's like you go through the 0 point, you go into stillness, you let go of all the outer, and you just really come into the state of coherence, this singular point of resonance. And from there, it just really taps you into this universal wisdom. And then you ask the question, or you plant the seed of an idea of what, you want to create. And it starts this kind of, this domino effect almost, this process of things accumulating around it from the quantum field to help bring it into being. And then once it starts to materialize and come into a greater level of your mind being able to grasp it, at the beginning it's super conscious, but then at some point we're able to start grasping it. And then we can brainstorm, and there's this flow of energy that comes from that quantum realm. And we can then start to bring it into the realm where our mind works with it and makes it more practical and tangible and detailed, and brings in the creative aspect to it, and then we manifest it. So there's these steps. And in for example, like the secret and the law of attraction and the power of intention, like that's one out of a 7-step process.
Right.
And so the quantum conscious way of creating is going to be the full 7 steps versus just that one step. Mm-hmm. And only when you have all 7 steps can you really make it
do that. And that's why I think so many people that watch The Secret or see some of those things are all frustrated, right? Which is one of the reasons I wanted to have this conversation, because it's they were super frustrated about, well, I did what they said, this idea of this law of attraction and stuff. And I said, yes, and you're missing parts. You can't just do that and expect everything to change. There's other things. Right. And I love that you're saying you broke it down to 7 steps.
Yeah. There's a whole formula, and it's based on natural, law, natural principles. But yeah, the law of attraction, power of intention is just one piece of it.
Right.
And if you're not in and really with quantum physics, to reach that quantum way of creating, it all relies upon what we call coherence. Now, coherence is a scientific term, which means laser-like. It's that, in a laser, you have all the waves of light becoming aligned with each other. They're all at the same frequency. They're all in phase with each other. They're all amplifying each other and getting really focused and, able to cut through anything, right? And so that coherence is key when it comes to accessing the quantum field. For example, with the power of intention and law of attraction, if you say, okay, from my ego level, I want this, I want whatever it is. And yet subconsciously, you don't actually feel like you deserve it.
Yep.
And super consciously, you having that isn't actually going to serve you. So you can't really manifest it because there's these parts of you that are not in coherence. Yep. And so it's going to get sabotaged. But what we need to do to reach that state of coherence is bring every part of us into alignment. So that means we have to do the inner work. You have to clear out the subconscious that might sabotage or block, the manifestation process. We also have to get into that higher connection to our source and to our higher spiritual potential, so that we can really make sure that what we're trying to manifest is aligned with what we're really meant to be doing. Yeah. And when we can bring everything into alignment, then we can start to make miracles happen and manifest in very powerful ways. But it takes work. And, part of the problem with our society today is everyone wants the magic bullet, and they want the quick and easy way that without doing any of the work. And it just doesn't happen that way. It doesn't work that way.
There's certain things there's been times where you can shift and you can shift a timeline or do something and something will, manifest or appear suddenly. But most of the time, and I've traveled the world for several years now, doing this world's largest miracles experiment and teaching, you heal some of your shit, your trauma over here, you do this stuff, you do this, and then all of a sudden things magically align and this thing appears in your life, and you get to see that. But so many times people do. I think this is part of the slowing down piece that we have right now, right, is the idea of that everybody wants the instant gratification. I want it now. I want it, and I want it right now, right? And you can't have that without doing the work, without really stepping in. And so now we're getting to sit in it and be like, oh, here, I got to do the work if I really want to create that, if I really want to have that. And so accessing this quantum consciousness, is there a simple technique or something that we could show people today to start doing that right now? Can we walk them through something?
Sure. So, I find that it is, you mentioned before, it's that space between. Like we are in a space between right now with this having to stay at home. And it's a really great opportunity because if we want to move past this stage, we need to actually work with it rather than resisting it or working against it.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it is home, it's also not just physically in our world, but it's coming into that. Um, did we just get frozen? Did we freeze?
Yeah, for a second. Yeah. Okay. I think we're good now. I'll have my video person edit it out.
Mm.
Are you there?
Yeah. Talking about this time, right? And a technique.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so during this time when we are in isolation, it's a great time to just really also be within yourself, right? To meditate, to really come into your inner core, to come into that place of stillness within. And that is, that stillness is the key to achieving coherence, to reaching that 0 point and to passing through that gate of the 0 point. So it's about the space between. So one example is to just focus on your breath, and you breathe in and you breathe out. But in between the in-breath and the out-breath, there is a pause. There's the peak of the breath, and then there's the lowest point of the breath as well. And in that pause between the breaths, that's a space between, right? So you can breathe in, but then focus on the pause, and then you breathe out, and then you focus on the pause. And you hold that pause as long as you can, and you'll find that you start sinking deeper and deeper and deeper into that stillness. Another way to do it is with sound, right? You can listen to the silence between the sounds. And it depends on, like, some auditory people can really, focus in on the sound and just zoom into the silence. Or if you're visual, you can focus on the space between two objects. If I have an object here and I have an object here, there's a space between them, and I focus on that empty space versus the objects, right? So we want to focus on that space between things, the background of silence, the blank canvas upon which all those things are manifested. And the more we can tune into that space between and just really enter into it, really surrender to that and prolong that and expand that, that brings us into that really beautiful place of stillness, silence, coherence, 0 point. And then from there, once we're really in that zone, then you start planting seeds of, what do you want to create? What do you need answered, right? What's your question? What kind of insight are you seeking, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a really simple technique to practice. And it does take practice, but then you can also do it throughout your day. You can do it in the little moments in between things, and just continue to reattune yourself back to that coherent state, or that state of centeredness and peace. And that's what we really need right now.
Yeah, we do. And I love that. I love the idea of finding a way to focus on the space in between. We're taught so many times to focus on the breath, or focus on the candle, or focus on, right? You're saying the opposite. Focus on the spaces between those.
Yeah, almost like the nothingness. Focus on the nothingness.
Yeah, awesome. A couple more questions for you before we go today.
Okay.
And thank you so much so far for everything that you've been sharing and the techniques. When we're looking at the world and our lives, I believe that so many people think that it takes a complete overhaul to transform their lives. Like, I got to do all these things. Like, they don't, and so they don't ever take one step. They don't ever start with one thing. What is one ritual or technique or practice that you can't live without? Something that you can share with our audience? I know you already shared with us the space in between, so I think that's a fantastic place to start. Is there anything else that you could share that you would love for people to know?
I feel like our outer world is a reflection of us inside. And so if we just put our focus only on, I got to do this, I got to do that, and I have to change all these things, and it's all outwardly focused, we're completely missing the point. So if there was one thing to change and to really focus on first, is to focus on your connection with your inner self. And I feel that, our ability to produce the changes that we need to produce in life is based on our foundation in life. And when we're basing our foundation in life on all these outer situations, outer circumstances, people, job, roles that we play in the world, that's not a strong foundation, because those things can crumble. They can be taken away in the blink of an eye. And so we need to base our foundation on us inside. So for me personally, I rest my foundation upon knowing who I am, at not defined by this physical life or this physical body, but who I am eternally, who I was before this life, who will be after this life, and really focusing just on that question, who am I? And just asking yourself that question every day and really tuning into that and allowing new answers to reveal themselves every single day, and trying to reach beyond how you define yourself in this physical life. That is a huge key. And the more you know yourself, the stronger your foundation will be from the inside out. And then also having some kind of a practice in your life that is based on you connecting with that eternal being first, connecting with who you really are first, and calling in that spiritual potential first before you go about the rest of your day. So whether that's meditation or some form of ritual practice, or, prayer, whatever that is for you, but having some kind of spiritual practice that you do first thing, and then allow that to flow and guide the rest of your day. And then I also do it last thing before I go to bed as well. So I have a practice that I do every day, twice a day, and that continues to help bring me back to that center of who am I as this eternal consciousness. And then everything else that I deal with out in life, it's like I'm always coming from that center versus being pulled out of that center. And I think that's a really important key.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, thank you. I love that. We've talked a lot today about spirituality and science. What is your definition of spirituality?
Ooh. To me, so spirituality is not about religion. It's not about any dogma. It's not about even just positive thinking and affirmations. To me, it's about a deep personal connection with a sense of divine source. You don't even have to label it. You don't have to make it fit any particular set of doctrines or anything. It's really about your personal, it's more mystical. It's your personal connection to that sense of the divine in your life. It's about having a sense of reverence, a sense of awe, a sense of the mystery, that there is something greater than us and our human ego, that there's something greater in this universe that is like intelligent, is benevolent, there's a divine order to things. And having a desire to know that personally, directly, and to align with that. To me, that would be, it's a more universal approach to spirituality, but also very much there's a lot of depth there as well.
I agree. Absolutely. All right. Last two questions for us today. You're on your deathbed and you have one truth that you can leave for all of your friends, family, and humanity to know. What would you say?
That this is all a hologram and we're here to enjoy this life and experience it. But not get so caught up in thinking that this is all there is, because, we are eternal and we're going on to the next adventure, and, I'll see you there.
Yes, I've gone to the next adventure and I'll see you there. I love that. We are eternal. If you could do one thing in this world before you pass to the next realm, what would you do?
I've done a lot. Yeah. Honestly, I've done a lot of it already. I'm at a point where, I could pass and I would be actually pretty okay at this point in my life, because I feel like I've served a lot. I feel like I've left my mark. And so if there's anything more for me to do in this life, it's just to continue with that, to continue to help leave my mark in supporting this shift in human evolution, and to see the world become a better place because I was here.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much, Theresa. Everyone.